What's up everybody, Izzy from the circus here, and today we're bringing you the behind the scenes video for HULK.mov. It was kind of our first major video, so I hope you guys enjoyed it, but I'm sitting on all this behind the scenes footage from the first couple months of production, so figured I might as well throw it together and give you a little sneak peek of the magic going on behind the scenes and just everything that goes into making one of our animations. For those of you who don't know, we combine 2D pixel art with 3D voxel art to create our style, so let's get into it. So I broke this whole process down into 5 steps, the first step here being the character rigs. And basically I work with a pixel artist who supplies all the sprites to me. I'm not that talented to draw them all out, I just take care of all the animation. So right here on the screen you can see me importing in all these sprite sheets, all the different movements and stuff. And I'm putting those on just a 32 by 32 frame because that's what the characters are drawn at, even though the sprite sheets are bigger. And then that's allowing me to go in and keyframe the position of every single one of those pictures or frames of the animation, whether it's their idle, their walk, their running, whatever. I'm just putting each single picture on its own second. That's kind of how I, found it easiest. So that way we can import all these files into any of our other scenes and enable time remapping on After Effects, which will allow us to pan through any of the frames, and we could just kind of create the animation from there, toggle between the frames we want, and so to speak. And that'll bring us into step number 2, character animation. It's broken down into blocking, animation, and the polish. So this first pass is going to be the blocking. As you can see, characters don't have any movement, it's just kind of their position in the scene. And then I pulled this 2D background from one of the Hulk, maybe like one of the Game Boy Advance ones, could be older, just to give me an idea of the space of like where they're gonna be once I import them into a 3D environment. Then you can see this next pass right here, I'm going in, and this is more of an animation pass. Any facial expressions I want to get across, any actions they need to be doing in the scene, this is where I start to get those dialed in. And the fact that I got their positions taken care of, now I'm just playing with the time remapping to get their proper performance out. So the blocking pass is kind of like their position animation, and then the animation pass is the actual performance that you're looking to get on screen. And as you can see, small stuff like having to flip the characters each time, and it's just a lot of fine-tuning going in second by second. Another pass, you can see we're getting some characters, both civilians and the enemies, and that's just really helping me fine-tune all the other stuff. Kind of like I mentioned earlier, it's just going to be a lot of polishing, so even none of this stuff is going to be final. Like even if you make some mistakes here, just from my experience, once I import it into the 3D space and I can actually see what the scene will look like, then I can get a better understanding of where I'm going to go with that. So tons of time down the line, we could just go make any adjustments we want and re-export these out. So this isn't an end all be all, but you do want to get it as close as you possibly can, before, to save yourself all those mistakes. And that'll bring us into step number 3, import character animations. And this is just taking those 2D files we created, save them as PNG sequences, make sure the alpha channel is turned on, and then we can just import them right into Blender. I just throw them on planes. You could adjust your materials from there. You want to take any like roughness, shininess, all that kind of stuff away. And I just put in a little default world. I knew the mall and the bar and the stack shack were my locations, so I added those and just kept everything else plain to make sure the characters looked right. And step 4, Blender setup, aka 3D environment. That's where I'm gonna go in and fine tune that. As you can see, I added a whole bunch more buildings in the background. The 3D spaceships are starting to come in here. Stuff like the ATM and the vending machines. All of that is just getting added to accent and like build out the world now that I have an understanding of where the characters are gonna stand, so to speak. And you can see the animation's still off here as I'm adjusting the backgrounds and stuff, just because we don't really know how they're gonna look in there until they get in there. You know what I mean? It's like we have all these puzzle pieces and we kind of know how they're gonna fit together, but we gotta get it all out on the table before we can start putting pieces together. And then right here you can see I'm starting to build the spaceship, so that way he has a place to jump. You can see the first round I did was that little gray one in the background, but it was a little too ugly and plain for me, so I found this little blue one on HIO a lot better. So shout out all the content creators who helped out making this video. And that brings us into step 5, polish, aka repeat steps 1 through 4. And at this point, I'm just going to beat a dead horse, but basically you just have to keep repeating these processes over and over again until you get closer to your vision. So right here, you can see basically the same concept we did with the pixel sprites, just creating little rigs for them. Doing the same thing with the explosions. I take the pixel animations, create their own little rig, put them on their own frames, time remap them, and that way we can control the animation and get it timed how we want. So I just did that process for a handful of explosions, and as you can see, I'm going to do the same exact thing right here with the cars. Took a couple different color cars, created the animations for it, and then that way we can go through and kind of enhance our scene and just add some more life to that world outside of our characters. Right here is the boss scene, aka the scene that took the longest and most amount of takes, and I'm just deleting that whole file and importing a new one because obviously I made some adjustments in After Effects, and fixing the timing in the 3D space. Since it changed in the 2D, we got to come and make the adjustments here, and that's basically all that's going on right now. But this scene took the longest and honestly didn't get perfect. It was just to the best of my abilities. It got to a point with this where I was in too deep, and I just, had the whole structure there, and instead of redoing the whole thing, I decided to work within the parameters. Small fine-tuning things like the cage coming in here, getting included, but as you can see, there's no animation there. The cage just kind of flies out, and all that stuff just kind of came with like iterations. Same concept from when we animated the characters. Oh, you do a blocking pass, an animation pass, a polish pass. Same kind of philosophy here. Add the cage in a blocked form, do some basic animation, then I'll go through, polish it, add all the specifics and stuff. Same kind of thing going on with it here. Those cars that we made, I'm just adding them in the scene and just playing with their timing, bringing it forward or backwards to like not cover up the action that I want, and just try to keep something for the audience eyes at any given time. If at any point while I was watching these videos I felt like, wow, there's not enough for my eyes to do, I might add a car driving by or some people running in the background, or just something to spice it up for both the world building and for the person watching it to not be as boring. Right here was a pretty cool idea. At the beginning, I felt like the enemies that we fight weren't deadly enough. I felt like we seen all these people running, people running from the right to the left was my idea the whole time, and then we're kind of going towards the right to the enemies, but I needed a greater way to show the threat there. So I basically took those same explosions we were talking about before, and I rigged it to the spaceship to make it look like it was firing at this building. The gray buildings that were destroyed, we already had. They were laid out around the map. Those, as well as the other buildings, were made by a voxel artist I was working with. And basically this scene I feel like adds what's the word I'm looking for? Maybe like a higher level of threat, just to show people what we have in store. It's not just these couple enemies, they're taking over the world basically. And that'll bring us to our 5 steps: character rig, character animation, import character animations, set up Blender, and then polish. And here's a look at what the file ended up looking like towards the end. So the biggest adjustments are all the polishing stuff, like the world buildings. You can see the street, I actually got proper voxel stuff like the text boxes, the explosions, like the amount of cars, the people running in the background. The city itself I felt like was way too boring before, so I went and got a whole bunch more voxel assets, imported them in here to just spice it up a little bit. Things like the background started off with like the Toy Story blue clouds, and I changed it to the city background. Just felt like it added more depth, more story. Obviously I changed the spaceship color here from blue to this more of like a pink color to match the voids, and a lot of polishing stuff like that. You see like the explosions of the dust coming up when Hulk lands, all that exact same stuff that we learned in the processes before, but just reworking that into every single facet of this animation that I could. So I hope you enjoyed. I hope you could learn a little bit of something from this, and let me know if you want to see more content like this in the future. Peace.